Are we supposed to talk about Christmas? I don't know.
Hey everyone. You know,
It's
we
okay.
only spent 27 minutes rehearsing this opening, and
We
it
did.
screwed up from the beginning. Let me try it again. Hey, I'm Jeff Harrison with Swing Point Media, and this is my co-host.
Leslie Spohr with Concierge Business Solutions.
And you're at the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. Yes, I have been exhausted for the last 27 minutes. Like I said, we did rehearsal, like, okay, we knew it was going to happen. And as soon as you said, okay, here we go, this is what we got. That's what's going to happen today on, it's for us. It's a couple of days before Christmas. We're recording this. So if we have a little jingle in our jangle, that's what's going on. And
I didn't
Leslie,
know you had a jangle.
What's that?
I didn't know you had a jangle.
Well, you know, most guys have a jangle. We jingle our jangles.
Don't even start.
Yeah. I don't know where your mind is. I'm thinking about something like like the Salvation Army guy has a bell, a little jingle.
Sure.
Yeah. So tell me about your holiday plans. You got anything special going on? Have you done some special things working up to the holidays?
We've had 4 Christmases already, so I have one left to do. And then we go to the theater tonight, and then we have all day with The Last Christmas we have to do, and then we're going to the movies on Christmas Day, and then we go to Vegas for 2 days. So it's a very busy next 4 days. I'm happy we're doing this podcast today. Oh my goodness.
Now I want you guys to do me a favor. If you haven't listened to podcast number, I think it's 44. In the opening, I was accused of going all the time, and Leslie never went anywhere. Here's my holiday. I'm getting up tomorrow. That's the 24th. I got nothing planned. I'm working. 25th, we have some friends coming in from San Diego. We're gonna have dinner. No other plans. That's it. The next day, they're leaving. Just a normal weekend. I got nothing. So I just want to put that out. It's on. No pickleball because it's going to be raining. We've got a Pineapple Express hitting Southern California. I'm looking out the window right now, Leslie. Again, I won't give you a live weather update, but it is raining in my neighborhood right now. Yeah. So it's supposed to be like this for the next 3 or 4 days. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It'll give my back a little rest. And those people that I keep beating in pickleball, it'll give them a little break.
You turned 65 and now you're back shot. See, that's what happened.
I don't think it was that. It's because I for those of you who didn't know, I went off for about 6 weeks because I had a double hernia surgery and I couldn't work out. So I've gone back to the gym pretty hard and heavy to try to get rid of this, the side wings on my body and
so you're so skinny.
Yeah. And getting my girlish figure back, and so I think I might have done something a little extra there.
I had my car washed yesterday, which meant, of course, it was going to rain today. Never rains in Southern California unless I wash my car.
Have you ever heard of this thing called the weather app?
Yeah, I have that. I have WT. What is it? What the weather or something. I don't know. It's very funny. Oh
my gosh.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. So
I'll send you.
Well, you did your car yesterday.
I got my car washed and then I had to go to the doctor this morning they're making me change my damn doctor because the office I've been going to for decades is now only going HMO and I have PPO. So I have to change my doctor. So I went to see him to say goodbye and, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm looking at the weather.
Whoa. Who goes to their doctor? You probably took him a little gift too, because that's how special you are. To say goodbye to the doctor?
I just did.
That's amazing. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just found that very interesting.
And then I had to stop at the store for one thing for tomorrow. And then I was rushing home to get home before the rain. And it started to sprinkle on my car just as I was pulling in. So I got out the microfiber and wiped it all off. So it's all good.
There you go. Yeah, my car is garaged after being washed 2 days ago, and it hasn't been out since. So I've been riding my bike to and fro
you'll melt
the pickleball court. Yeah. So anyway, what do we?
Where's the pickleball court close to you?
It's only about a mile from me. It's just in the park in La Quinta at Avenue 52nd and Bermudez. So it's very close.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just down the hill for me. We have hills out here in Southern California, but in the desert area. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today, Leslie?
I don't know. I thought it was just fun to jibber jabber, but I think we're going to talk about overwhelm and the what keeps your business from growing
Yeah,
because
we're not about overwhelm, because if you did want to talk about overwhelm, that's in episode 44 and 45, which you've already recorded.
oh, did we already do
So
that one?
we already did
I
that with
can't
part one
remember.
and part two. That's just how overwhelming that
That
episode
was
was.
that was
But I'll
like
just put
last
that
week.
there.
I don't remember.
Or just
Okay.
read off the screen. What are we talking
Okay.
about today,
Oh, the
Leslie?
number one reason your business is not growing. Did you
Wow.
drink today? I had no
I
eggnog.
didn't, but I'm going to start. Maybe I should have some eggnog. You know, my wife will
Okay.
not let me drink eggnog. As a kid, I loved eggnog.
Why won't she let you drink it?
Oh, she says it's just not good for me. It has too much fat in it. It's sugary, whatever. I'm thinking with the right amount of rum, it's ideal. So anyway,
Yeah, I do like it. And I'm not a drinker, but I do like a little eggnog I like rum. So it's good.
yeah. So anyway, hold on, my little thing. We've just got a little update on our software here, and what it does is it has a timer on it, which is really kind of screwy because I wasn't expecting that to go off. I didn't want that to go off. Let me save that.
We
Because
do that
today's
every
topic
time.
is the number one reason your business is not growing. You know, a lot of people would say, well, because I'm not marketing, I don't have the
No,
right people on
no,
staff. You know what? My market is too small. I need to
no.
open up what is it, Leslie?
It's when you do everything yourself. You become the bottleneck in your business. You're the constraint. Everything has to
Oh,
funnel through you. If you think about it like a click funnel, all this work is coming in and you're right here in the neck of it. And then the business has to come out and it's like a better analogy would be what do you call that thing with the sands of time? What is that thing called?
that's an hourglass.
An hourglass. That's right. So it'd be like an
That's why
hourglass.
I'm here.
Only
It's like if we were playing, remember that game as a kid? It was like password. You would have to give me a word and I'd have to figure out what you meant. Yeah. I
well,
think we've been good on that game. Anyway,
the older I get, the harder I have with nouns. The problem with nouns is so difficult. Anyway, so you become the constraint in your business because everything has to funnel through you. And I am hearing this more and more and more as I do these 5-day challenges. Everybody is the constraint in their business.
mm.
Now, why does that happen? I know why it happens. Why do you think it happens?
Well, I've heard people, and I've been guilty of it. It's like, well, why would I give this to somebody else? By the time I teach somebody else to do it, I'd already have it done, so I'm just going to do it myself.
That's a lot of it. Or a lot of it is that we don't know how to teach somebody else to do what we need them to do.
Oh,
Because the art of delegation is not just about giving somebody a task, it's also communicating appropriately your expectations for that task and how to do that task. And so, even if you don't have policies and procedures, which I'm a huge advocate for policies and procedures, but even if you're a tiny little company and you need to have people help you, you still have to communicate what you expect and how to do the job so that those people can do it properly because most human beings, unless you've got some kind of a psychopathic gene, most human beings are they want to do a good job.
mm,
But if you haven't taken the time to explain to them how to do that job, they're going to do it how they think is best. And that may not be what you want. And this isn't a one-time teaching thing. This is something you have to do all the time. You have to, I have yearly, monthly staff meetings, and every month I'm going over some procedure, some of my expectations, what I'm wanting them to do, so that it's a constant reminder. Last month I had to tell them that I hope you understand I can see everything you do,
mm.
right? Because my software allows me the visibility I get notified when they update a task or a schedule or a quote. And if I don't see it and all of a sudden see a batch of them, I know they haven't been monitoring it on a regular basis and they're catching up before the meeting.
Gotcha.
So, helping them, reminding them that I can see what they're doing helps, right? I always equate that to the gold star syndrome. People modify their behavior based on what you measure. And I know I'm getting a little off topic, but their behavior is modified based on what you measure and what you're watching. So if they're aware that you're monitoring something, they always do better. The minute you take your thumb off of that and stop measuring it, it goes away every single
Mm.
time. Whether it's your kid making their bed or somebody in school getting a gold star for a project completed on time, or an adult who is supposed to do this and that, and you're not making sure they do it. So this always works. But anyway, as business owners, we start out just us generally. And we are wearing all the hats and we're doing all the jobs. And pretty soon, we're working really hard to build our business and we're doing a good job at that. And all of a sudden, and it seems to hit you overnight, all of a sudden, there are not enough hours in the day to do the job to the level that you want it done.
Yeah.
Right. And so then we become what? Twisted, bent, and exhausted. All right. That's why we call this podcast Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted. So how many of you out there have ever found yourself in that predicament? Right. How many of you can say, you know what, I can relate to this because I think, I have to do everything myself. And Jeff's right. Why should I spend the time to tell them how to do it when I can do it myself? I hear that all the time. Right. And it's because it's the teach a man to fish mentality. If you teach somebody how to do it, even though it takes a minute in the beginning and you have to monitor it, then they can always go do it going forward and you don't have to teach them again. So there's a benefit in delegating with purpose.
Yeah, and I think I recall back about I think it's almost been 3 years now. I got into a mastermind with Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and he wrote a book called 10x is easier than 2x. And a title is really important to catch our attention. That one caught my attention. And one of the biggest things I took away from that, and I was in his mastermind for almost 2 years, is one of those things that's like, stop asking how and instead replace it with asking who.
Right.
And a lot of times, if you know me, people will say, geez, you know so much about AI. And it's not that I know so much about AI. It's one of those things when this started coming down the pike, I said, you know what? I have a vision of how I'd like things to be made. Who do I need to hire who can make this using the tools that are available in today? And that was so much easier because then I could literally, and hear it, and stop me if I'm wrong, but now what I could do is say, I could convey the thought that I wanted to say, go make this. This is the result we want. You know the tools. I know the tools exist, but I want you to go and build this, and here's the result I want. And now during that time it was being built, I could go do other things. So it's like I was more than multiplying myself, because here's the thing that we as business owners often misunderstand. The things we hate to do, there are people who want to do it because they love doing that stuff. Like I just sent all my tax information to my guy, and it was almost like you could just hear the joy in his email because I'd sent him all the documents to do my taxes. I wanted to throw up. But so the point is like, I changed that phrase from how do I do this to who can I get to do this? And then I would find a way that said, can I afford to hire this person? Because what would happen, Leslie, and stop me if I'm wrong, is we're talking about me being not the bottleneck anymore, is I was able to compress time and I could go out and get expertise that was far above me. Because, like Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Yeah, it's been slightly debunked, but we do have to have time in the box to figure out before we become an expert at whatever it is. Well, as fast as some things move in a business as demanding, it doesn't matter what you're in. If you have to take all the time to figure out how it's going on, your competitors are lapping you. But if you can find somebody who says, hey, I don't know how to do this, but you do, can you do this for me? And I can still go back and do my other stuff that I love to do. And tomorrow it's done, right? You now can lap the field. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing internally because I remember the days where you were reluctant to do that, or you weren't thinking broad enough. You would release some things, but still do a lot of it yourself. These days, you're doing very little of the actual mechanics of video editing or AI optimization or content creation because you've automated all those processes either through actual automation or through outsourcing that to other people. And that's what business owners need to learn. It's very hard to do. And a lot of them will say, they'll object to what you just said and say, but I can't afford to hire anybody. And my comeback to that is you can't afford not to.
Well, I
Because
want you to do me a favor and take us back to when you first started your business, because you did something incredibly unique when you started Executive Errands.
which one?
What
Which thing?
the fact that you hired somebody
Oh,
right away and you didn't
yeah.
have the money or the clients, but you decided, hey, I want a business, not a job,
Right.
right? And
Right.
that
I
was the
hired,
trans.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
take
I'm
us,
sorry.
tell us about that a little bit.
Well, as soon as I got one client, I hired somebody to help me. And there was a lot of reasons for doing that. It's not easy. You have to share the money that comes in, right? It's a slower build because now you're splitting the cost of it between what I make and what I'm paying them. So obviously it take a little slower build, but I know that I will give everything away for free. I just know that about myself. I'm very generous with my time and my knowledge and help, and I love to help people. So I know, knowing myself, that I will give everything away. And you can't run a business if you aren't strict about billing for time. When you're selling time, you have to be really careful in how you do things. And so I knew that if I hired somebody, I would have to pay them. So that creates the hierarchy with my clients to understand that those people have to bill for their time so that so you have to pay for the work they do, which in turn pays me also. But they understood the hierarchy, right off the bat. I know a lot of people that go out and start this business and they're the only one doing it. And then they've grown, they get 5 or 10, even just 10 clients. And all of a sudden, trying to keep track of everything becomes very, very difficult. And trying to make sure nothing falls through the cracks and trying to make sure that when there's, in this business, in my business, I don't know about yours, but in my business, it's critical to have some discretionary time because emergencies pop up all the time. So you can't really schedule somebody for 40 hours a week, not in the business model I do, right? I have to have time for a golf ball going through a window and we find it when we get to the house, or a flood,
Was it a
or
Titleist?
probably out here, or the pool equipment leaking, or any number of issues that come up when we go to check home. So I have to have discretionary time. When you're solopreneur and you're wearing all the hats and you're the bottleneck because everything flows through you, there is no discretionary time. Right. And so you end up when somebody calls you, especially this time of year where you've got a lot of holiday planning and prepping and gifts and wrapping and things that you do for clients. It's very easy to all of a sudden be juggling so many things that you just have to say no at some point. You just can't get everything done. So once you can, there's a saying something like, once things are in your consciousness, then you can make improvements. I don't know if that's exactly the saying, but I always feel like once something is brought into your consciousness and somebody explains the alternatives to you, delegation, automation, AI, just all the different options that are available to help offload your time so that you can be more effective. I think I've talked a few times on this podcast about when I first hired a bookkeeper, right? If I had to do one more invoice, I was going to throw the computer right through the wall. I mean, no joke. And so I wasn't sure because I think of everything in terms of billable hours. So I wasn't sure I could afford to do it, but you can't afford not to do it. And so I finally hired somebody and my business grew like crazy because I was freed up those 4 to 6 hours a week or however many hours it would take to do invoicing to go and market my business and network and build relationships and bring in more business. So, you really have to examine what tasks are you doing that have to be done, that can be eliminated, or that can be delegated. Otherwise, you will always be the bottleneck.
Well, that was kind of leads you to this first question is what might be the first step to remove yourself? And I'm just going to share an example of what I did is early on, and I think it was with your direction, I hired a project manager. And at the
Mhm.
time, I had 17 writers on staff because we create content for local businesses. And so her job was to manage what went on for each one of the clients and also manage that staffing. At that time, like I said, we had 17 writers. We also had videographers, we had editors, we had at that time we had graphic artists. In other words, we probably had all in all, we probably had somewhere between 20 and 25 people that, as you say, are discretionary. They were freelancers, but they were at our disposal. And that helped me so much because staying in touch with all those people and having that many articles in and out that I had to look at and review. What I found, Leslie, is I found that tipping point where, you know what, I could not do anything more at the highest level because I started making mistakes. I would look over something. I'd miss a spelling or punctuation. And then I realized, you know, I'm not your best guy at this. I need somebody who is an editor by trade, and they're very organized and they're very detail oriented and quite anal. And I found somebody, and she took tremendous weight off my shoulders. And all of a sudden that, like you talked about, my business did grow. And I did start looking at different opportunities where before that wasn't even an option. And as you said, it's like once you see this, you can't unsee it. And once
Right.
you see it, now it's not, oh, well, I didn't know it existed. No, now it's a choice. And you know
Mhm.
what? I'm sorry. It's like if you know the answer is there and it's going to help your life and you don't take it, not to be harsh, but now this is on you. It's not on Leslie, not on me. It's not on your wife. It's on, or your spouse. It's on you because you know the options exist, right?
Right. That's what we do in the 5-day. The first thing I do is identify what's your biggest challenge. What is stopping you from your business growth? What do you feel would make your life easier? That I ask that question
Mm,
first because quite often where we end up is not where they thought it was. Right. And then we look at, there used to be an old show on, I don't know if it's Trading Spaces or something like that. Maybe it wasn't that one, but there was an old HGTV show where they would do, it was a decluttering thing, and they would have 3 piles, and it would be keep, donate, trash,
mm.
right? And it's the same thing in your business. What do I have to do or like to do? What can I delegate, and what can I stop doing altogether? What is just busy work? Because if a task is not furthering your company along toward the goal that you have for your company, then you shouldn't be doing it. And you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be doing it at all. Busy is a buzzword. It's an excuse people use all the time. Busy, a lot of people wear busy as a badge of honor. Oh,
Mm.
I'm so busy. I can't, oh God, I'm too busy. And busy doing what? Searching Pinterest. I sometimes get caught up in that. you know, Watching a couple of TV programs, doing the laundry when you should be writing newsletters. I mean, what are you too busy doing? And each of those tasks, because I make them do like a 2 or 3 day or even 1 day assessment of how I spend my time all day long, right? Every 15 minutes, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So I can evaluate whether they're busy work or whether they're actually doing productive work. And there's so many ways to automate things these days that it doesn't make sense to not take advantage of some of them. You know, our software completely automates all the operations of your business, right? And it gives you you can see the health of your business on an exception basis. So it's
Now,
really
I'm
handy.
going to stop there for a second because when you say automate all the things in your business and then by exception. Some people may not know what that means. So give us an
Okay.
idea of when you talk about automating some of the things in your business that you would have done prior to your software, or let's say one of your people on a 5-day, they're doing certain tasks and you just see that opportunity, like you shouldn't have to be doing that yourself. So give us an
Right.
example of what
Well,
they are doing that's taking their time, that makes them a bottleneck, and what something like your software can do that
right.
frees them up.
Well, for example, keeping a to-do list. Everybody keeps a to-do list, and there's a sense of satisfaction when you cross off something. You take a pen and you cross it off. I only write in blue pen, for example, because it makes me feel more accomplished. There's no sense to that. There's no rhyme or reason. It just helps me. Okay. Um, but there's no reason to keep track of that, because you lose those. You end up with 25 of them on your. I couldn't tell you how many CBS to-do lists are on my desk right now, because I don't have the ability to keep track of it in a system. I guess actually that's not true. I could do that. But right now I have to-do lists everywhere. So, but not in executive errands. Executive errands, we put all of our tasks in by client, and so that we can see. And then we have a management by exception, means I'm only looking at the things I have to look at. In other words, if you have 1,200 tasks, but only 10 of them are late, then you want to look at those 10 and what's the continuous process improvement I need to do to reduce the number of past due tasks so that I have zero. Now you may never.
I want to pick at that just a little bit,
Sure.
because we live in this world now. It's like, we want to give somebody a prize for 8th place, and
Mm.
we are of that generation. Like, you know what? There's only one winner, and I'm sorry, that's the real world. There's no ribbons for 8th place in the real world of business, and that's just a reality. That's not me being harsh. That's just reality. So when you talk about, hey, you're only looking for the exceptions, why is that important? In other words, let's say there's 10 tasks and 8 of them are done like golden. But instead of you coming back and saying, "Hey, Jeff, you did a great job on those 10, those
Oh,
8,
yeah.
keep it up," you come back and you have a little different process. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and it's a hard one to teach people, especially these days where everybody's skin is so thin. Back in my day, you better have tough skin because you are not going to survive, especially in aerospace, which Dan pointed out the other day. It's been 20 years since I worked in aerospace, but those
Give it
principles are
up.
still
Give it up.
relevant. No, they're still relevant today. Um, Here's the thing. When you focus on what's not getting done instead of what is getting done, you're focused on the process, not the person. So, what's broken in the process that I can't finish this? In other words, let me give you a different example. We used to measure on time completion, right? So for shipping, we'd be shipping product out the door, and we would say how much. We didn't say how much on time delivery did we have. We'd say how much past due delivery did we have. So yeah, 98% of it went out on time, but 2% didn't. Now, if you ascribe to the continuous process improvement philosophy, which I do, then I need to know the root cause of why 2% did not go out on time. Because the only way I can improve my on time delivery is to identify the causes of the 2% and then develop the corrective action to fix it, so that next time maybe it's only 1%, right? If it's still 2%, do I have the same issues or do I have different issues? And so I always have to explain, even to my own employees these days, is I'm not focused on whether you're doing your job right or wrong. I'm focused on how the process is broken. What can we do to improve the process? And people get very, very hinky about this because they're like, well, but I shipped 98% on time. And I said, I understand. And that's a good thing. That's your job. From my
That's
point of view,
expectations.
yeah, that's my expectation. That's your job, is to ship on time. Good job for doing your job. That's you get to 0 and you'll be really a superstar. So, but there's always something that gets hung up in that industry, material shortages, things that don't pass tests. There could be any number of reasons, backlog, a lot of different reasons. So how do I fix that? Same with fast food drive-throughs or insurance claims or whatever. If you're trying to process, the more cars you process through a drive-through, the more money the business makes. The faster they go through, the more you make, right? Obviously. So if you, if that's why there's little timers quite often by those drive-throughs where you see them counting down the seconds, because if you get to 30 seconds or a minute, you're losing money. You need to get those people in and out, and whatever that company decides is the right appropriate amount of time, maybe 10 seconds, drive up, get their food, take their money, get them out. And if you're hung up making food, then you're losing money. And so business you have, I'm always looking at what is the cause of you not accomplishing what you need to do. Now, in my current industry, say a task is past due, and I look at it and I call the concierge and say, why is this not done on time? And they say, well, because the client asked me to put it on hold for X amount of reasons. Okay, then you should have updated the notes that said that's what happened and changed the due date to the date that they expect this to be done. Right? So now it's no longer past due, and there's an explanation in there of why you changed it. You can't just change it for the sake of changing it, or nothing ever gets accomplished. Right? There has to be a justification in there, because I can see the data was entered. So I know if it's 3 months old, 2 weeks old, a day old, I know exactly how old this task is. So, I want to know in the notes what that is our narrative of the history of that task, what's going on. Right. And so when you manage by exception, you take the burden off of yourself of looking at everything and focusing on, it's the 80-20 rule. I'm going to focus on the 20% that is going to get me the 80% bang for my buck. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So it's the 80-20 rule all over the place. That's what management exception is. 20% of your 80% of your issues lie in 20% of your data.
I also, as I'm listening to you and knowing you, it feels like a lot of times bottlenecks come back on us because we're doing all the work ourselves, and we really lack the systems.
These days, that's very true.
And it feels like if I had, like for your business, you don't work in your business anymore, and you haven't for quite some time, because you are a systems goddess. And you've been able to take all the things that you do and make a standard operating procedure and be able to hand that off, and then have, as you say, you have those expectations created that this is what we're looking for. And you can give that to anyone and they can follow this. Where I think it seems like when we get in a situation, when they say let's say small business owners, we get in a situation where we are not scaling our business. We might have to just take that 1 second, get off the hamster wheel and say, do I have systems in place that if I did hire somebody today, they could do this job? If the answer is no, that could be the clue. And I recall back in the day when I would still do all of our live streaming, and we had several churches and several clients that we took care of. And I was busy every day doing live streaming. And the cool thing about live streaming is there's no editing. So it's like, we turn it on, we make sure it works, we turn it off, we go to the next location.
Sort of like our podcast, but go on.
Yeah. No, this requires, you're seeing a cleaned up version now. There's a lot of mistakes that have to be made, and there's hours and hours of editing. But anyway, so what I did is I said, listen, I can't grow. I can't take on any more people because I don't have any more of me. So I stepped back and I said, okay, let me write down all the steps that I do so that I could give somebody basically a playbook of saying, you can do it like me now. And if something is up, you just look at your reference in your procedures, and they can do that. And that made a difference. And so I think of this as systems can relieve the bottlenecks. I'm not saying it's going to eliminate them, but it can certainly relieve them. Would that be fair to say that could be maybe the second step, is to say, review your systems or review if you even have systems and then start to develop them?
Yeah, it really depends on what. Yes, that's true. But when I do these assessments, these business assessments of 5-day challenges, quite often bringing in help alleviates, delegating some of the stuff is a major help. And then as you grow, you need systems. Now, depending on what you're doing, systems may be first. It depends on, again, it depends on what you're doing. But for sure, the ability to delegate and the ability, or to have help, and the ability to automate as much as you can to alleviate that off of yourself are key. Because in this day and age, everything is about data. More than ever before, it's about data. And, I was in the software industry before, right? For 10 years, I was helping companies pick the right business operating software and helping them implement it and re-engineering their business processes to work with it and all that stuff. And it really made a difference for those companies to have a streamlined workflow, right? Because once you start hiring people, there has to be a place to track the data, especially in an industry like lifestyle management, because everything is about what you do, your credibility, the quality that you do, how you operate, and all that kind of stuff. And that's true in every industry, but especially in this one, because we're selling time. Maybe it's super true for like decorators or lawyers, because they're also selling time. So, and because time is not tangible. At the end of the month, you've paid for it, but you don't have anything to show for it, technically, right? It's kind of vapor. However, we all know what an extra pair of hands does for us, right? I mean, you've got all kinds of people that work for you virtually. I have a bunch of people that work for me physically that satisfy all our clients. I just met with a new client, potential new client yesterday, and she was concerned about how many clients we had, because she wasn't sure that the concierge that would be assigned to her would have enough bandwidth to be able to adequately service their property. So I pointed out to her, we have people who come and go all the time. So we are not anywhere near capacity, because at any given time we could have everybody here or nobody here. I mean, you just don't know. The work load varies every single week. Because where we live, people come and go all the time.
Sure.
So, we're not at capacity, but you have to be able to determine when you are, right? When you are, because you can't breathe anymore, right? I know when I can't breathe. However, I haven't been in that position for at least 2 years. I really haven't. I haven't had to work nights. I haven't had to, kill myself to run my businesses. None of that. Because
So wait a minute. So you, as a software person, prior to building your own software and understanding, management by exception. So you, and again, this is one of those things where sometimes we have this conversation about this curse of knowledge, that we forget that we were one of those people not very long ago. So you're talking about just in the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years. What was the transition point for you? Because you've always had standard operating procedures. You've always had software, but you were still one of those people, like, all of a sudden I'd get an email at 1:42 in the morning and you're still at your desk. And then I'd reach out at 5:15 and I'd wake you up because you fell asleep at your desk. What made that change?
I think it was when I got married and I went on my honeymoon and took my laptop. That really was a pivotal point for me, because I took the laptop with me because I couldn't be away from my business. And the whole week that I was on my honeymoon, I worked every day.
Now, was that okay? So you couldn't be away from your business. Was that more in your head, or was that reality?
No, that was reality. Well, I'm going to say it was reality, but only because I didn't delegate properly. Right. I was still doing all the quotes myself. My office manager has convinced me I don't need to do the small quotes. I do need to do the construction quotes, but I don't need to do the everyday jobs that come through the business. Right. I was still doing all the potential client meetings myself. I don't have to do that anymore. I have people who are trained to answer questions and to talk to potential clients almost as well as I do. Right. I backed myself out of being the face of my business. And for some people, that's really hard to do because there's a bit of ego involved in that.
Yeah.
Right. You start the business because you want to build this kind of a business, whatever the kind of business that is. You like it. You want to, you're enjoying yourself and you want to showcase a good front to the business. That's me. I'm the front, I'm the face. However, I have backed my face out of it, for
Mm.
lack of a better term, so that my other people are also like I used to do all the client communication too. And now I don't. I run it all through the people that are assigned to those clients and let them deal and build the relationship with the client. So I get much fewer emails than I used
Does
to.
does does taking that step, Leslie, and then I don't want to get away from this about what made the change, but does that also make your staff feel more invested in
Yep.
in their client, which is your
Yeah.
client?
Right. It does. And there are tricks to keeping your thumb on things so that you don't lose control, right? You don't want to get blindsided by an issue that you didn't know anything about. Client call you up
Mm,
and irate, but now you got to do damage control and you don't know any of the background. When
yeah.
something comes up that could be disastrous or iffy, my concierge bring me in right away. They tell me about things so that I know and I'm aware. But as a rule, because most of our business runs really, really smoothly, that happens rarely. I don't have to be involved in every single email. I used to be first I delegated to them. I wasn't the face. And then I took myself off the copy to, and all of these things were bloodletting for me. I mean, it was seriously, it was very, very hard for me to do because I'm a control freak, as you know, right? I am a control person. I need to have death-like grip control to make sure the quality is right and to make sure things are the way I want them. Luckily, we have cultivated a very good staff, people who have integrity, who care about the business, who I pay well. I have good perks for to keep them happy so that they'll want to work for us. They've been here a long time now. We're not getting the turnover we used to have. And so, empowering them to have more autonomy, to make better decisions and things has worked really, really well. And if they run up against a situation where they always go, what would Leslie do? That's always the thing that goes there. What would she do? But if they run up against something they don't know what I would do, they will call me and ask,
That's great.
which is
But you're
great.
not but they don't immediately call you because they're always
Well,
using this. You've almost created this second brain within them of like, hey, what would Leslie do? Well, Leslie would do this, this, and this. Okay, let me try that. Okay, that works. Now it's handled. And
right.
then it's like, oh crap, I don't know what Leslie would do because this is a new one. Let's call her. And they
Yeah.
feel, and you're okay with that, right?
Yep. In fact, I tell them making mistakes is okay too, except please make a mistake I don't have a procedure for, so I can write a new procedure because I like to write procedures.
He's a
So
procedure freak.
I am totally a data and procedure freak because it's the only way to grow your business. The only way to have quality is to have things documented so people know how to behave, right? If I always joke with people that are old enough that my company is like a Stepford Wives community, everybody operates exactly the same. Right. You get the reference, right? If you don't get
Yes.
the reference, please look it up, Stepford Wives, and you'll get it's an old movie or TV show or something where they lived in like an HOA community, they were all exactly the same. That's kind of how my people operate. And I'm proud of that because I know the quality is there. In fact, they're so good that quite often I don't even have to check on them and then they feel neglected. And I have to
Uh,
be careful of that because people want validation and you have to know how to properly validate. But I tell them all the time, your validation needs to come from inside,
yeah.
right? Yes, it matters what I think, but it doesn't matter what the client thinks. I'm your client. So as long as you're keeping me happy, I'll go to the mat for you if a client gets unruly. Don't have to worry about that. But do I call you up and coddle and pat you on the back all the time? No. And it's terrible that I don't, but that's just not my personality. Um, I'm not a good coddler, as you know,
Do
right?
you do you
I consult
do
for you.
you
I don't
yeah,
coddle you either.
do you have a second in command that, let's say, for instance, hypothetically, let's say we're talking about a business and you're the bottleneck and you're thinking, okay, I'm not that person, but my staff, because of the day and age we live in, they do need some reinforcement. Would you make sure to hire somebody that has
Mhm.
that that weak side that you don't have, to make
Yeah.
sure that the actual forward facing client rep is getting that support, as well as they understand, hey, you're still managing by exception, but they're also getting and you're doing a great job, but we need to
Yeah.
clean these two things up.
I always tell them at my meetings how much I appreciate them, what a good job they're doing. And I've gotten better about um, prefacing things with a positive, right? Because people take a negative way better if you started with a positive. I used to not do that. I used to be very bad about this. As a matter of fact, even to this day, because I worked in aerospace and it was very cut and dried, and you couldn't be female, right? I worked in a man's environment and they don't take to editorializing or coddling or any of that. And so I just didn't grow up that way. And even to this day, if I write an email, I have to almost every time go back and put some kind of salutation, some kind of friendly,
Mm.
flowery thing at the beginning because it's just not my nature. You know,
Sometimes she'll send me an email and it's cryptic. I don't know what the heck she means, and I have to sit with it for a while.
is that true? You
It's
can't
true.
read my mind yet?
Sometimes I'll get something, I'm like, okay, I gotta sit with this one for a minute because I'm not sure exactly what the reference is, but I'll figure it out. It's a Stepford Wives moment.
Yeah, it is. So, when you become the bottleneck in your business, you really have to examine what you're doing. And then what do you have to do? I have to write the proposals for construction because I don't have anybody else in my company who knows how to do that. Not to the level that I want to do. I used to write proposals in aerospace for government contracts. So I'm very particular about how that gets done, and I'm not willing to relinquish it, at least not yet. Now, someday I may hire another estimator or somebody who knows how to do that, and then I can just review it and make sure, because I'm all about how to protect the liability and all this stuff. So I do those, but all the small stuff. Oh, I got a plumbing job. It's minor, quoting that, or housekeeping, or pool maintenance, or pool repair. Even I don't need to quote that stuff because my office manager can do it and tell the concierge, and they can tell the client. I used to do all of that myself. So the point of this all is that once you realize that you're the bottleneck, and I did when at my honeymoon, which was actually 5 years ago, but I've been in a good place for the last 2, 3 years. I started looking at my own things and saying, take your own medicine. This is what you teach people. What do I have to keep doing, and what can I get rid of? Now, the good news is, in the last 18 months or less, the automation capability, the AI automation has just exploded. And that has really helped a lot. Things like generating press releases or newsletters or emails to clients sometimes when I want to be especially political but friendly, political meaning not offending them in how I say something, because it's so easy to misconstrue
Mm.
verbiage in a text or an email.
The ice
So
is pretty thin nowadays.
it's very thin, and skin is very thin,
Yeah.
right? Our whole target market changed. That's another thing. We started out, we had one target market, and now they've aged out or died, unfortunately. Not joking. So now we've had to reassess who is our ideal client and change our approach to marketing and interface to this new market. And that's
Mm.
something, I mean, we've been in business 20 years. So think about that. Things have changed. Society has changed since COVID, especially. So, you have to constantly be evolving, and you can't rest on your laurels.
Mm-mm.
It's every year it needs to be this is a good time to be doing this because, right? I don't know, when does this one get published?
Well, it's going to
January.
be sometime in January.
Right. So it's a really good time to assess where you are in your business. Are you the bottleneck? How do you fix it? If you are at a loss on how to fix it, I have these free 5-day challenges. Happy to do it with you. Doesn't matter what industry you're in to me, I can still help you because business is business. And I go by industry benchmarks and how to help you and they haven't changed. Industry benchmarks in business have not changed in 50 years, right? There's ways to do things faster and better, but the heart of it is still the same. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. It's really hard to build businesses if you don't have these benchmarks that stay in place for a long time. If the goalposts are constantly changing, it's really hard on not only your business but your staff, everything. So
Right.
I like the fact you say, hey, these are industry standards, but at the same time, you're probably also looking at those and saying, has there been a shift? And if it is, you're probably going to tweak it and make it now an updated industry standard. Would that be fair?
Yeah, you have to because your business, as a business owner, if you are intent on building an actual business and growing your business, you have to let the marketplace dictate to some degree what you're doing. I mean, even McDonald's will bring back the McRib every now and again because it's popular demand, right? They don't generally sell the McRib all the time. It's not one of their staples, but they will bring it back for special occasions and they get a whole influx of people who love the McRib. I used to like it when I was younger, but I don't think I would like it now. I don't do any fast food. But you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying is that um, all companies evolve and change with the market and society. In the lifestyle management industry after COVID, everybody started outsourcing things that they never did before.
Yeah.
I mean, dog walking and car washes and things that they could go do. Can you remember as a kid washing the car on the weekend, in the front of the house?
Well, I can remember the fact that, all the things that we outsource now, we used to do as kids, and that's how we made our money, our
Yeah,
allowances.
mowing the
And
grass.
yeah, I threw papers when I was a kid, and toughest part was knocking on doors and collecting, and then mowing lawns and raking leaves. And I lived for a part of my life in the north, so it was like shoveling snow and then working and then starting to work. That's just the way it is. And now, I think about our side, like we got a housekeeper, we got somebody comes and does the gardening, we got somebody taking
Pool.
care of our, pool. We have a guy who does barbecue cleaning, and on and on and on. It's like
Yep.
about the only thing I get to do anymore is I get to do windows, and then of course, I leave them streaky, but hey, they are clean for a moment.
I know somebody
So
that does windows in case you need
yeah.
'em.
So anyway, just a reminder, what we're talking about, we're kind of wrapping this up, is we're talking about, hey, what is the number one reason your business is not growing? Because I don't think the majority of us that get into business is saying, hey, we're just going to, and maybe I'm wrong, but some of these people, we want to grow our business. And then we get to the point where we're not growing. We're thinking, what is it? Well, I have to work harder. And that is not the answer. It
Right.
really is to find out, hey, what is the bottleneck in your business? And oftentimes, as Leslie has pointed out in this show, is we are that bottleneck because we still have that mentality is A, we can't afford to hire anybody else. Nobody can do it like us. And it's faster if I do it myself. And now, can I
Those are
trust
all the
somebody else
reasons.
to, yeah, and can I trust somebody to do it at the same level I am? And I think that comes back down to, as you say, is managing by exception, looking for that, not the 98%, but what's the 2%? How can we improve on that? Because the other stuff is already good to go. And
Right.
then think about this as like systems can relieve the bottlenecks because systems are basically, or standard operating positions are taking you out of doing this and saying, if I want to put, whether it's artificial intelligence or it's another human being, you can put them in that and it can now do that job that you used to do at the same level. Or sometimes, and I've said this many, many times, when I started hiring videographers to do my work, I would look at it and say, why did I ever do these videos? I mean, I remember the first time I did a video, Leslie, it took 30 hours for me to edit the video. This is when it was very, very difficult. I
I
didn't know what I was
remember
doing.
that.
It was brutal. And now, I can whip out a video in probably less than an hour. But when I compare it to what my videographers do, they'll take an hour and 10 minutes, but it'll be 10 times better than what I do. So why would
Right.
I do it anymore? Well,
Right.
sometimes I think it's one of those things that, like, I do it because I can still do it and I still like to do it. And maybe I'm thinking, well, I'll just do this quickly because I've got them on other projects. I think that part's okay, but I'm not in the day-to-day all the way. But the systems allow me to get rid of that. And then something else you said that we kind of passed on very quickly was understanding the workflow. What is the workflow of your business? Because I think there's a rhythm for every business and everything we do.
Right.
What is that? And then examining it from kind of the outside in and saying, okay, these are things that, I don't have to do. Who would I have to hire to bring in there? And you know what? They could do 3 of these processes, not just one. They could do 3 of these along the workflow, and it would relieve up 5 hours a week of my time, 10 hours a week of my time. What would I do with that? Well, geez, maybe I would be involved in a BNI meeting, or maybe I'd go to the Chamber of Commerce, or I'd get a networking. And all of a sudden you're growing your business because now that's what you're supposed to do. You're no longer tied up in that. So these are just some of the things that we went through on this of like, hey, what is that number one reason that your business is not growing? And the fact that we're first of the year, we're at the end of the year, but in 2025, but we're releasing this in the first year. I think this can be a nice thing for you to think about of like, yeah, some of the stories that Leslie told and how she grew her business. And the very first thing she did, as soon as she got her first customer, she hired a new person. And because she decided she never wanted to be employed in the business, she wanted to run the business. She was building a business.
It's kind of backwards from what most people do. Most people work until they are either exhausted or, have grown beyond their capabilities and became that bottleneck. And then they start to bring on people. But I got to tell you that most of the people I've done 5-day challenges with are now bringing in new people the first of the year to help them. They didn't have anybody before, but they've realized that they are the bottleneck, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today, is because it's a fact we have to face as business owners. At some point, you are going to become the bottleneck, and you have
it's inevitable, right?
It's inevitable because we wear all the hats, and it's an easy trap to fall into because it happens so slowly you don't even see it. All of a sudden, you're just there.
Well, just to toss this out, I've seen this on the other side where somebody is the bottleneck and I'm working for them. I think about it when I was in the golf business. It's like, I can't do this until I talk to this person over here. And really, I know what to do, but I can't do this until they give me an okay. And but they're out on the golf course, or they're teaching, or they're traveling. This is ridiculous. And they're the bottleneck for the growth. And it really, for me, I saw it hurting our customer service because it was as you said earlier, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it was an ego play.
It is. It's an ego play.
Instead of, hey, just do it. You know what to do. And the thing you said I thought was beautiful is, what would Leslie do? That's what your staff is asking. What would Leslie do? And when they know that answer, they can proceed as if they were you.
They know me pretty cool. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. It's interesting.
So anyway,
I was thinking, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, finish it up and then we'll call it a day.
Well, I was going to give you another example, but we don't need another example. One that just occurred to me when you were talking, but it doesn't matter. We can get it another time. It just, it's the consciousness of being the bottleneck. That's really the heart of this. If you are stuck and your business isn't growing, take a hard look in the mirror and say, is it not growing because I'm trying to do everything myself? And then let's go from there. And if you find that you are overwhelmed and don't know how to start, don't know how to get out of that, then Jeff just put up on the screen the link to my 5 Days to Freedom Challenge, which is 100% free. There is no cost to it. It is me and you one-on-one going through your business. We spend a couple of days figuring out where you are, and then and then from there we can identify what opportunities are available to you to release yourself from being that bottleneck so that you can then go back to growing your business. It's just the next evolution or step on the path to success. You have to do it. It's just part of the deal. That's how it works.
It's a real no-brainer. If you think about some of the very best, elite athletes that we watch on TV or we go to see in person, you know, they all have what? They'll have a team. They have coaches behind them. Why? Because the coaches, in this case, Leslie, she can see things that you can't see because you're this deep into the
Right.
weeds of your work. And she can see this, and all of a sudden you're going, oh, I didn't think of that, but it makes so much sense. Yeah, let's do that. And that's why you have people that are elite. They don't go out alone, but I see so many, I'm going to say amateurs trying to fix it on their own and wonder why it doesn't work, because you're inside the ring trying to figure out how to box. Go talk to the guy on the side or the gal on the side that says, wait a second, here's what's happened. Watch your footwork. Here's the thing. He's faking you out. She's faking it. They can see things you can't see. So this is your opportunity to really get in the ring with Leslie, and she can walk you through step by step, and she's an expert at it. That's what she does. And she can help you do the things we talked about today, besides many of the other things we talked about on the other 43 episodes we've had. Can you believe this is episode 44?
I can't believe it.
And help you. So please, and I'm not going to try to say it, it's on the screen, the link for the 5-day challenge.
If you're on Spotify, let me say it's conciergebusinesssolutions.com. There's 3 S's in there, / the-.
Wait a second. There's actually 5 S's in there.
Not in a row. There's 3 in a row.
You didn't say in a row. You just said 3.
Business Solutions. There's 3 in a row. Business Solutions is 3. / the - 5 - day - freedom - challenge / and that will get you to our webpage, and you can sign up, and I will teach you, I will work with you one-on-one and help you identify the opportunities to eliminate that bottleneck and to grow your business. And everybody who does, we've got some video testimonials, don't we, Jeff?
We do.
On the website and on Facebook and all our social media. So go check them out. Do it today.
And here's the thing you're going to get guidance from somebody who's a multi-7-figure business owner, and she's been doing this for over 20 years, and she has 2 different businesses. Unless she said she's not going to toot her horn, but she was in a man's world for years in the aerospace industry. She's taught at Cal State Northridge.
Yeah.
And so she's worked with people all over the world. And this is your opportunity to say, wow, and you're going to do this for free. What's in it for me? Everything.
Yeah.
So this could be the opportunity you're looking for the first year. Here's the thing, gang. She doesn't do this every day, all day. It's very limited. So make sure you go to this and get signed up, because I know she's already booking into the first of the new year. And times are limited, so make sure to go there. Leslie, one more time, how do they get a hold of you on that if they're listening, not watching?
They're listening, not watching. It's conciergebusinesssolutions.com / the - 5 - day - freedom - challenge, and that will get you to the webpage. And for sure, and if you need to call me. I mean, it's on my website how to get a hold of me. If I'm here to make your life better and to help you. Well, actually, I'm here to help you make your life better. It's better to teach you how to do it than for me to do it for you.
Yeah. All right, Leslie. Well, we're going to let them go with that. And again, I would just want to thank you for joining us for another episode of the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. If you liked what you heard and you think somebody else might like it, please share it. And please give us a 6-star review, because 5, everybody has 5. Might as well give us 6. And
is there a 6 option?
Yeah, I think you have to write that in. And make sure to write in the review your favorite host. That's Jeff Harrison, Harrison. What?
No, it's not Jeff Harrison.
Seriously, let's have fun. And Leslie, thank you so much. I really enjoy these. And have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you in the new year.
Bye.